Welcome to the Personal Podcast, where we get to meet the real person behind the professional. I am absolutely honoured today to be joined by Lyndon Longhorne, who is a Paralympic swimmer. At 8.5 months old, Lyndon, you had amputations of your right leg above the knee, your left leg below the knee, your right hand, and the fingertips on your left. But you've never let this hold you back in life. How have you managed to maintain such a strong mindset?
I think for me personally, it's come down to the training that I've had with a lot of psychologists and the work that my family's done with us to basically give me that can-do attitude to push us to that next level. Without that, I probably wouldn't have been the person that I am today. But I've learned a lot more from the last 2 years, and I think it's always been there in my life. It's just now that I've took that with a little bit more willpower and pushing it to that next level, basically.
Oh, it is incredible. And I just even remember you from a young age, just always having that confidence. Nothing was going to hold you back.
Yeah, from a young age, that's why I'm pleased it actually happened. And I think if I look at it, everyone always says, would you rather it have happened now or when you were younger? You don't know that answer. It's one where you can literally say to yourself, I'm glad it happened when it was younger because now I've adapted, and any situation that comes to us, I literally say to myself, do you know what? Sit, think about it, analyse it, and how can you get around that obstacle? It's like any obstacle that you have in life, you've just got to try and tackle that barrier with the right attitude, and you get through that. And that's where now I've decided, you know what? Yeah, it was a good thing, but you can't really question yourself and say, if I was older and that did happen to us, would I be doing the same things as I'm doing now? Would I be a Paralympic athlete as I am to this day, or tried the sports that I have? So yeah.
Yeah, it's still incredible. You speak so blasé about it, like anyone would do it, but I don't think anyone would. So talk me through it. So you're 8.5 months when you contracted meningitis. Obviously, you're not going to remember that much at such a young age, but your mum and your parents must have told you about it.
Yeah, so I've had conversations with my mum about it, but obviously she was 18 at the time, so she was a very young age, and it was quite what I could imagine, because I've got a 5-year-old, so if that had happened to my little one, I'd probably be in the same boat. So for my mum, I was basically unwell and I wasn't eating. I had a high temperature, I have pale, floppy, everything, and my mum took me to the doctors, and the doctor had said, have you tried paracetamol? And she went, yes. When realistically, from what I know, she said no, yeah, for that reason, but she hadn't, because she knew what it was.
Right.
So that's when that had all kicked it off, and they said, right, we need to refer you to hospital. So when they took us to the hospital, I checked everything over, done the observations that they need to, and as the nurse left the room, she turned the light on and my mum noticed 3 spots on my chest. And from that moment, my mum knew what it was, and she pulled the nurse back, and everything just went at 100 miles per hour, and it was like, oh my goodness, like, what on earth's going to happen? And from what I'm aware, from what my family's told us, I was given like 4 hours to live from that moment of getting all the machines put onto us, and then getting us from Bishop Auckland up to Newcastle, RVI, where I was in the general. So there's lots that's happened. Don't know the full story because it's not where I would like. Yeah, I would probably would at a later date, but I've seen photos, and the photos are quite graphic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and in the terms of, because meningitis can actually affect you in such a serious way, where your limbs start to turn black and it kills the red blood cells off, so there's no oxygen or anything going to them.
Right.
And then before you know it, you have to start amputating. But the amputations came, 2 of them were done on one day, and then I waited a few days, and the next 2 were done a few days later, and it's to make sure that the spread of the infection is not getting any severe. So in August 96, I was the worst case that had occurred at that time. So that's when it was like, okay, we need to raise more awareness of that. And I mean, luckily now, yes, we've got vaccines and things like that, but there still needs to be a bit more awareness around meningitis, and sharing my mindset and how I've tackled it can hopefully help young kids, adults, teenagers to push themselves on.
Definitely, because I don't know when it was, but I remember the adverts with the glass tumbler. And it's like, if you see the rash, roll it over the rash.
Yeah.
If it disappears, it's not meningitis. If it stays, get to the hospital as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Was that before or after you contracted it?
It's been around for a while, the glass test. I couldn't give you an accurate date of when it's been around, but I know it has been one of the most popular forms to actually tell if it is meningitis or if it's not. Yeah, there's some side effects what people have where they don't know if it actually is or it isn't. Some people do get symptoms, some people don't. And it's one of those where you can actually say, okay, well, I tick that box, I tick that box. Even if you tick a couple, maybe it's just worth getting checked. Because you don't want to say, oh, yeah, I'm fine. In, like, say, a few hours, you go severely downhill with illness. And that's when you realise, oh, why didn't I tackle it earlier?
And am I right in thinking, did your mum have some sort of medical background?
So it wasn't a full medical background that she had, but she was studying childcare at the time.
Okay.
So it did help her to know that. But if my mum hadn't have said, like, that she tried paracetamol, then I probably wouldn't be here to this day. So.
Oh my goodness. And do you feel lucky to be alive, having come so close to death, or do you feel unfortunate that you were so badly affected by it?
I think for me, it's kind of a lucky feeling to be here, but I kind of think to myself, well, would life be any different the other way around? So there's that mindset of saying, what would it be like to be the other way? So I don't know, it's two mind frames, isn't it, of is it this or is it that type of thing? So,
yeah, I guess glass half full or half empty. And, you know, you do always come across really confident and really positive, but there must be times when you feel a bit down or frustrated.
Absolutely. And for me, this only occurred where I learned a lot more since doing work with psychologists and around mental health and everything that occurred. I only started it about 2 years ago now, where I'd started to learn a lot more, and I was getting frustrated with my disability and thinking, I can't do this, I can't do that. And before you know it, the negative thoughts start to take over and you think to yourself, why do I bother? And that for me was the kick to say, I literally need some help. And yes, I did speak up. I rang a psychologist. I remember picking up the phone and it just said, I really need help because I'm struggling. And that's when I had my sports psych, I had a private psychologist and I had a work psychologist as well. But it was some intense therapy that I went through to actually make us the person that I am to this day. But I think as well, not only have I learned a lot from them, but as well as listening to how other people come across with it and what their theory is of how they get around stuff like that. And obviously we've spoke before today about Mel Robbins, where she said about doing the let them theory.
Do you want to describe that for people who don't know?
So with the let them theory, it's basically any thoughts that you think, so you might be worried about what your family member's doing or a friend. So you could be saying to them, okay, well, what if this happens to them? What if that happens? It's out of your control. So the way I look at it is, what can you control and what can you not control? If you cannot control it, then don't worry about it, because that's something what is going to happen. You worry about the things that you can control, and that's basically what the let them theory is. And all you've got to say to yourself, just let them. And if you can let them do what they want to do, it just takes the stress off your shoulders. Yes, it might not be in a nice way, but at the same time, have you tried to give them as much support as you possibly can? But it's how much further you want to go to actually get them to drill it into themselves and say, okay, yeah, they are going to accept the help now. So, yeah.
No, it is such two powerful words, really.
Yeah.
I remember when we were initially talking about kind of if ever anyone's been staring at you, and you're just like, well, I just think, just let them.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, wow.
With that, I have had it all my life. And yes, it's always going to happen. And that's why now I basically say, just let them. It's not your issue. Yeah, if people are going to stare, absolutely not a problem. You can stare. And my grandparents hated it when they were alive, but obviously, sadly, they're not here anymore. And my granddad used to say, can you stop staring, or do you want to take a photo? And it was like, yeah, you've got your bodyguard beside you. And I think that's where a lot of it came down when my granddad died, and it was kind of like, okay, well, you've lost part of you, and that piece of the jigsaw had gone missing.
Was that recently?
A few years ago.
And was that when you were at breaking point with your mental health?
Yeah, but I think it's not until I've dived deeper, like really, really deep, with this work that I've done with psychologists, to basically say, okay, well, what is it? And I think that is one of the key factors where it started, because it was my granddad went, then my other granddad went the next year, and then a few years later my grandma went. So it was like, it was a chain reaction. And now it's like, okay, well, you've lost the people that were extremely close to you and the people that you could speak to. Yeah, I could speak to my mum and dad, but I don't know, it was like that gel with your grandparents who you're basically seen as like the go-tos.
Oh, that's lovely that you have that from your grandparents. Would you say they were your role models?
Yeah. I think, yes, my mum and my stepdad, they've been a big role model for me and getting me to have the can-do attitude. But I think when you hit that barrier, when your parents always say, yeah, yes, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, when you hit a barrier of something that you don't know what you can do, and it literally hits you like a ton of bricks, and you're like, whoa. So before, I used to go to my grandparents and say, okay, well, how do I get around it? And they used to give me that. But when they've not been here, I think that's where it's kind of tumbled downhill and you don't know where to turn. And it's like anyone, you don't know where to turn for the first point of call. So, yeah.
And it's great that you have been able to speak to people. You know, I really think that's important for people. Have you kind of got, I don't know, a health kit of how you do look after your mental health, or a process or routine that you do?
I think for me, it's just about doing the daily tasks. So, yes, you have your long-term goals. So I set myself goal targets, and I basically say to myself, okay, where do I want to be in 5 years' time? Where do I want to be in 3 years' time? But it's the stepping stones. So if you think of a consistency route, consistency is like a set of stairs. The more you go up them stairs and take one step at a time, you're going to get to that end goal. If you're taking leaps to try and get around it, to jump hurdles, you're not going to get to that success route. And that's why I say, okay, well, what do we need to do in the morning? We get up, make the bed, tick. What do we do next? We go and brush your teeth, tick. Do you do a skincare routines like facial or anything like that? For me, I do a moisturizer in the morning. And then it's like I go and train. So I go and train at like 5:30 in the morning. So I'm up at 4 o'clock, crack of dawn. And then it's a case of, okay, well, come back home, have breakfast, and then do whatever needs to be done around the house. If you're doing that and you're setting yourself them daily goals, you don't realise how much better you feel about yourself. And it's weird because I was like, oh yeah, you're talking rubbish, but it actually isn't. It does.
Yeah, it's such a cliche, isn't it?
Yeah,
small steps will lead to like massive results.
Absolutely,
but they really do, especially like the compounding effect of consistent daily activity. And for yourself as well, you've talked about brushing your teeth, getting out of bed, making your bed. Yeah, people might just think, daily tasks, tick, tick, tick. And for even able-bodied people, some of those tasks are hard enough to do every day. For you, they're massive tasks. So how do you kind of cope around the house?
It's difficult, I'm not going to lie. It's one now where I'm at a point where I've had a house for 5 years. And now I've turned around and said, you know what? Yeah, I do need a bungalow. But at the same time, I think I'm still getting around doing my daily tasks. Would I like a bungalow? Yes. Is it a priority? It is. But what goals do we need to do to get that bungalow? So that's why now I've had to say, okay, well, let's focus on the next 5 years of making that goal realistic to get to where I want to be. And if we can do that, absolutely amazing, then that's a big goal to actually achieve that. So
and do you live on your own?
I do, yes.
Yeah, so you do everything yourself?
Everything's done by me. Everything, like from hoovering to washing the pots, it's just daily tasks around the house, what a normal parent would do. So it can be difficult, and there's days where I'm in pain. It's like my back might hurt or my arms or anything like that, and it's like, okay, well, leave it. Don't make yourself worse. Just focus on what you can do. So whether that's just as simple as make yourself food or doing some work in the background. So you might have work you need to do on the laptop. And it's the little things what you need to just control a little bit better. There's no point getting frustrated about the big tasks when they can wait. It might be 2 days, it might be 3 days. But why are you stressing about something that you can't do straight away? It will come, but you've got to have that little bit of patience and take that step back. And you've got to be a realist at sometimes and say, can I do it now? No. Okay, well, what do I need to do to make that situation better?
Yeah, it is just incredible. But I want to go back in time to school. What was school like for you?
School, for me, was a little bit challenging.
I can imagine, bless you.
Nursery wasn't the best. I used to hate going to nursery. I had a taxi that come and picked me up in the morning. Mum used to tell me I used to scream, kick, everything, didn't want to go.
Really, from so young?
Yeah. Some kids do like going to nursery, some kids don't. And I guess for me, it wasn't that situation where I wanted to be in. I had one friend in nursery who I always relied upon. But when I got to primary school, I was the first person with a disability to go to that school, which changed them. And they basically said, how on earth are you going to do this? My mum was like, he will find his way around doing tasks what you ask him to do.
Did that make you more determined?
Yeah. And I think once you start asking the questions and you ask for help, yes, throughout life, like you look at like everyone in the world, the top world people. So you've got like Jeff Bezos, you've got Steve Jobs, you've got Duncan Bannatyne in the Northeast, who runs all the gyms. Everyone, and they've always asked for help along the way to get them to that top level, and that's the way that I look at it. So because I've asked for help all the way through school, that's the way that I look at it now and say, okay, just ask. And that for me was the big turning point. When I got to secondary school, it was not a problem. I had all the help that I needed. So it's weird how it's the small steps that help you to get to that big goal of saying, yeah, I know when I can and can't ask for help. Yeah, I'm stubborn at times. I'm not going to lie.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, but there's sometimes where I'm like, no, I can do it. And then there's other times where I'm like, Lyndon, you really need to ask for help. And I'm like, okay, fair enough, I'll ask.
And is that something you've really battled with as you got older? Have you got more stubborn, or have you found it easier to ask for help?
I think for me, as I've got older, it's a point where I've gone, okay, you now need to ask for help. Mm-hmm. Yes, when I was younger, I could say, yeah, I'm going to do this. No, leave us alone, I'm going to do that. Mm-hmm. But now I'm getting older and it's kind of a point where I've said, yeah, just ask. Because otherwise you're just going to get more and frustrated. Mentally, it's not great for you. And you start seeing that and you find yourself on a spiral going downhill. Yeah. And that's why I've told myself, just go for it.
Yeah, you're so right, though. Not enough people do ask for help. Mm-hmm. There's a pride that gets in the way a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And, I don't know why it has to be that way, really. Everyone needs help.
Absolutely. And I think there's not a lot of people that'll come forward and say, yeah, I've asked for help. But I think it's important that a lot more people speak up and say, yeah, do you know what? It's been the best thing that I've ever done. I think for me, would I be the person that I am to this day if I didn't ask for help? Probably is not. Mm. And that's what's changed us. I'm working with a psychologist that I've worked with have really changed my life around to make my mindset look at it differently.
Definitely. And it's also that reframing it as well, because quite a lot of people like to help others.
Yeah.
So it's almost like you're helping them in a way by letting them help you.
And I think that's where one of the things comes in when you do a lot of public speaking. So when I've done public speaking for people and tell them that I've asked for help, and you don't realise how many people. For me, I always say if it helps one person, great, because then I know that I've done something right. Mm-hmm. But when you get multiple people come up, you're like, whoa, hold on a minute, I've really had a bit of an effect on someone to help them out.
Yeah, you must get told all the time how inspirational you are and how you do help and motivate people. How does that feel?
It's good in a way. I mean, years ago, I used to turn around to myself and say, I'm just the normal person going around the daily life, getting on with stuff. And I never really accepted that of people saying, yeah, you're an inspiration, you're a motivation to everyone. But now I'm like, do you know what I am? And if I can help people with that, whether they just want to send a message or ask a question or whatever it is, I can try and point you in the right direction to help you out. Yes, I'm not a professional, like a pro psychologist or anything like that, but it's about getting that mindset right. And because I've done a lot of training to get me in that direction, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've worked with lifestyle coaches through the sport and outside of sport, but that's where it's helped get my life back on the tracks. So if you think of it like a train, you're getting yourself back on track and just focused on that direction where you want to go.
Yeah, I think it's more powerful when people hear it from yourself, though, because they can see that you're actually embodying that. You're doing what you say you're doing. Yeah. And obviously, lots of these psychologists are brilliant, great advice, great knowledge, but they're not necessarily doing everything. Whereas for you, people see and it's like, wow, you really are, doing all this. You're inspirational. Yeah. So yeah, it is amazing. And the word inspirational is thrown around so much these days.
Oh, absolutely. That's where it becomes a little bit frustrating, because you see it on social media, people being like, oh, you're such an inspiration. It's like, but how's that an inspiration? In their terms, I think inspiration's looked at differently to what my terms are or your terms are, or anyone listening to this podcast will be having their different terminology of what an inspiration is. For me, it's that person who works their absolute backside off to get to that top level and saying they've left no stone unturned. They've done everything they've can, but they know that them team around them has actually helped them to push them to be the best of the best.
Yeah, and for me, it's also overcoming really difficult circumstances as well. doing things where I maybe don't think I could do them if I was in that situation. For me, that's when I'm truly inspired.
Yeah.
It kind of pushes me on to think, well, hey, if Lyndon's doing all this, I could do this.
Yeah.
So, you're right. Everyone has different definitions of it. But when it's just overused, it takes away that true impact of it.
Yeah.
I
think it's more finding your voice. So if you find your voice of who your inspiration is, that's the one that's going to help you out to push you to that top level.
Yeah, definitely. And so back to school days, when did you start realising you were different to other kids?
It's a difficult one because I don't think I ever did realise that I was actually any different.
Which is nice.
Yeah. I think because you're made to feel welcome and no one was treating you differently, that was a case of, okay, I am part of everyone's group. When I went to secondary school, yes, great secondary school that I went to and never had any issues or anything like that. When you start getting to the moment of when health and safety starts getting involved, so when I was in physical education, so PE, I was told that I couldn't do it because of health and safety. And that's when you think, okay, why am I being pulled for this? So it starts to make you think about things like that. But when I was starting to do things like my swimming, so that all started from that point. And the school would say, okay, well, why don't we take them swimming for that PE session and stuff like that? So that's when you start and think, I think now because I've dove deeper into it, I've realised, that's probably the point where I could have realised I was different. But when I went to college, that was completely different because they were used to say, yeah, you can join in. So I don't know if it's that stigma that's been made around of like, oh, you can't do that. So I need to pull them from it.
Yeah, but how lovely that you felt so included up until that point. Damn, health and safety getting involved.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. Were you ever bullied because of your disabilities?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's happened through primary school a few times where it wasn't all the time. Now and again, secondary school, I had the odd occasion. But yeah, it's always going to happen in life. You see it on social media where people start bullying people and you have to think to yourself, but why are they doing it? And that's why now I've basically said, you know what, just let them.
Let them again.
Exactly, yeah. That's that. It comes back to that theory and it will keep coming back to that. And the more you can just say to them, just let them do it. It doesn't bother me. Yes, you've just got to keep them negative thoughts out of your head. You can't go to bed on a night and lay there and say, oh, am I this or am I that type of person? If you can literally try and put the positive thoughts back into you and do the tasks, what you know is going to take your mind off it from thinking about it, then you'll become a stronger person around that.
Well, you certainly are a strong person. Just to have that mindset from such a young age as well, even back in the days of school. Incredible. And so say when you went to college and your friends, you all start dating, you get to that sort of age, did it affect kind of early relationships? Yeah,
I think I don't know if there's been a stigma being around from that age where there's been a lot of people that say, oh, well, like, say, for example, you're on Tinder or something like that and you might match and you start a message and then you say, well, just let you know I've got a disability. And I think a lot of the time people are just like swipe and they don't pay attention to what the profile is. For me, yes, I did have people say, oh, well, I'm not dating you because you've got a disability. And it does hit you because you think, God, am I ever going to find someone?
Yeah.
And yeah, don't get me wrong, it took its time, but you've just got to keep going back to that theory of let them. And if that's their problem, that's their stigma because they don't want to deal with it, okay, that's absolutely fine. But at the end of the day, the way that I look at it now is what can you bring to the table that's going to help me, but what can I also help you with? Because I think it also works both ways, like a 50-50. But for me, it's just been around, just let them have their say. If they're not happy with it, on to the next one.
Yeah, and you're just always, this is me, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
You either love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of, if you don't like it, you can leave. You know where the door is, just move on. Because I'm not bothered. I'm sure there's someone else that'll appreciate what I can actually bring to the table than someone that's just not going to accept my disability and support where I need it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Has online dating made it easier or harder to meet people, do you think?
I think there's been a case of online dating has made it easier, but I think there's the whole internet security issue of saying, is that a real person or is it not a real person? So it goes back to like, yes, it probably does make it easier, But at the same time, would it be easier to probably do something like speed dating or something like that? So I don't know. I think it's one where if you tried all the theories that are out there, it's what works best for that person. So you look at the program like Undatables for people with disabilities or diseases or anything like that they've got, that they go on there to try and find the love of their life to help them out. So I think there's loads of different things what can be done. There's probably still a little bit more of improvements to be made. But yeah, it's how you get around that.
Yeah, how do you view that program, Undatables? Because I know it has mixed reviews in terms of, people saying it's discriminatory, people saying, it's actually helping people. What do you think?
This is my opinion, but
and you're entitled to that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are scared to speak up, and that's why now I'm basically like, okay, my voice is my voice, and if I don't speak up, who's going to listen to us? So for me, it's more. Yes, I was asked to go on it years ago.
Oh, really? Yeah.
But I turned it down because I said, well, there's loads of different dating apps that I can go on. Why don't I just try them and see if I can get something? If I can't, then I know I could probably ask them and say, okay, well, I'll go on the program. It's what you're comfortable with.
Just a quick message from our sponsor, Be Daily. If you'd like all the relevant business news that you need to know on a daily basis delivered directly to your inbox, please subscribe to Be Daily.
And I think that's why I basically said no, because of the term of like, well, are you basically saying I'm an undateable person?
Yeah.
What is it about the name? Is it the branding of it? Is it the undatables term to say, oh, well, that person can't be dated, they're undateable? Well, why are they undateable? Just because they've got a disability, everyone's different. Everyone listening to this podcast will be different.
Yep.
Everyone's got their own needs that they are going to need in life. No one's going to be the same. If we were the same, the world would be any different to what it is. So yeah, for me, I didn't like the term of it, and I think that's why I turned it down. And I think that's why I just decided, go your own route and see what you can do.
Yeah. Well, good for you.
Yeah.
Right, we're going to talk swimming now. How did it feel to represent Great Britain in the Tokyo Paralympics?
I don't think there's any words what would actually describe that feeling. And I mean, yeah, I've tried twice before that and failed. But I think that setback of failure has driven me to be the person that I am to this day. But representing Great Britain in Tokyo was absolutely incredible. And I mean, yes, we had no crowd, but for me, it was more about going and getting the experience and saying, yes, I've done an Olympic Games. I've achieved that goal for what I've always wanted to achieve. To represent Great Britain in the Paralympic Games, stepping on that world stage where you're against thousands of people and you are in the top 20 in the world, top 10, and you're like, wow, this is absolutely insane. And you've got your teammates behind you, you've got other countries cheering. When you hear that environment, you think, wow, if this is the environment now, what's the environment like with a crowd? And you speak to other athletes who literally say, oh, it's so much better when you've got a crowd. And I think that's why I've probably done it the right way around of saying, yeah, Tokyo was great because we got the no crowd, but Paris could be the next step to say, okay, well, we've got the crowd.
And the no crowd was because of the pandemic.
COVID, yeah. So because of COVID protocols that were in place, it was such a long process from us getting out there to following all the protocols that were in place to then getting through the game. So yeah, it was
crazy times.
Amazing, but there will never be any words that can actually describe that feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I've got goosebumps talking about it because you'll know. I don't think many people know though that was a dream of mine growing up. I was a swimmer too, water polo player, and I know London 2012. A lot of my friends managed to go there because then being the home team, we got a water polo team in there, and I just remember seeing them all, just incredible. But just it kind of ate me alive. Just thinking, oh, I wish I could have been doing that.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not resentful. I love hearing people's stories about it because I just want to live it through them. So. Yeah, I just can't imagine the pride you felt. And
I think it's one of those where you look at the athletes when you've watched them on TV. So you look at like Ellie Simmons, who has been to multiple games, and you think to yourself, oh my God, I'm in the games with Ellie Simmons. And it's amazing when you get that feeling of you've seen them race on TV, but now you're one of them. You're in that environment with them.
Yeah.
And that's why you think, yeah, I've made it type of thing. So, yeah, it's not about, for me, it wasn't about going and getting a medal or anything like that. It was more that goal, what I've set out as a young boy, I've hit, but I've hit it because I've had that mindset of coming back to the sport and slamming it at myself to say, yes, you can do this. You can go out there and achieve what you want to achieve.
It's amazing. And am I right in thinking you quit before that?
I did, yeah. So originally when I started the sport in 2009 after Beijing, because that was my motivation to get involved with sport. I hated sport before that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I never had any involvement with sport. Yes, I went and done PE, but I was like, oh, I don't even like it really. And then for me, it was more, I watched Michael Phelps. So when he won his 8 gold medals and 8 world records, that for me was like, if he can do it, why can't I? Type of thing. So I'd failed to get to London, but I was a torchbearer in 2012. And that for me was the moment. So when I didn't make the team for London, I turned around to myself and said, is there a case to go again for the next 4 years, or what do I do? And I took some time out and I said to myself, let's just regroup, see what we can do and take a summer to enjoy ourselves. So I did that, and I come back and everyone was like, oh, you're going to be a torchbearer. And I was a torchbearer that year. And that for me was like, you've got part 1, let's go again. So I tried for Rio, didn't make the team, and I quit. I turned around and I was like, you know what, I'm walking away.
Just so devastated.
Yeah. And I was like, it's not going to happen. You start to have them thoughts. And I think that's where there's probably been a case of, was my mental health starting to kick in from that point of saying, yes, you're not going to do it. You can't do that. You can't do this. Yes, we'd had setbacks and failures along the way. And that's why I just hung up my goggles and said, you know what, that's the end, and I'm going to go and get a full-time job. I did that. I had a daughter in 2018. She started getting in the water about the age of 1, similar age to me.
Yeah.
And that for me was like, okay, well, if she's doing it, I want to get back in and go again. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And that's when obviously I've hit the goal now. So I've done Tokyo for Games, Madeira for World Championships, and hopefully Paris this year.
So that's what you're training for right now?
It is, yes.
And tell us a little bit about all the hard work and sacrifices that go into being a Paralympian.
There's not a lot of people what realise the sacrifices what you have to make. And it's one of those now where I've realised that I have sacrificed a lot. I've given up friends' birthdays to go away on camps. I've given up time like with the little one to actually say I need to go away for racing. Yes, there was times where she'd come with us, but there's now a case of, okay, well, I've got to be away for, say, you might go away for like 2 weeks and you might not see your little one for 2 weeks. Or you might be away for a month. So for me, I was away for a month for Tokyo, and I was having to do FaceTime calls back home to make sure that like, everything was okay. But obviously then you think, well, I've got an 8-hour time difference. So when you're going to bed, they're waking up. When you're waking up, they're going to bed. So it's getting that balance right. And over the years, I have sacrificed a lot. I've missed out on certain opportunities, which I probably wished, should I have taken them? But would I have got to where I am now? So you start analysing different routes. But for me, I literally say to myself, you can't overthink what has happened. What's happened's happened, and that's the pathway that you're on. But for me now, I've realised that there's been a lot of sacrifices, and it's a case of how much more do I want to give up? And having a daughter, or anyone who has kids, will realise that you want to see them grow up. And that's why now I've like, do I carry on after Paris? What happens? Watch this space, basically.
Okay, interesting. We'll watch it. Tell me more about your training regime. Swimming's brutal, isn't it? The amount of training you have to do.
It is horrendous. It's great in a way because it teaches you that discipline routine.
Oh, absolutely.
It teaches you hard work.
A lot of things are easy after being a swimmer.
Oh, absolutely it is. But for me, the routine of you train Monday to Saturday. So you've got the early mornings in there. So you might have a 5:30 session. So you might have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You go and train. You've then got the rest of the day to chill out after your 2-hour session. Then you're going back training on night. So you've got 2 2-hour sessions that day. The next day, I've got, so for me, Monday to Friday, this is what I do. So I train on a Monday morning for 2 hours, 5:30 till 7:30. Tuesday, I train in the gym. So I do an hour in the gym on the morning. And then in the afternoon, I go for a swim for about 2 hours, an hour and a half. Wednesday, I'm in the pool for 2 hours. Thursday morning, I'm in the pool for 2 hours. Friday is horrendous. It's a brutal day. So I have 2-hour pool session in the morning, 2-hour pool session at night, and an hour in the gym on the night. So
5
it's a long
hours.
day. Yeah. And then Saturday morning, a 2-hour swim session. So
Yeah.
It's a long week. Sometimes you get to a weekend and you just crash and you just want to chill out. You've got to reset and go again. So when I'd quit the sport, I was overweight. I was basically obese
Can't
at the
imagine
time.
that.
Yeah, weighed 65 kilos near enough. And I was struggling to basically, my anxiety was through the roof. Everything was starting to kick off, and I said to myself, do you know what, you need to lose this weight and get back to where you were. And I think that's where swimming teaches you that mindset of having the discipline, having the team around you. Who do you ask for help when you need help? It's every little thing that you ask for that swimming can actually teach you and take you into a further life.
Definitely. And what sort of mileage do you do a week in the pool?
It varies. So the last few, obviously, it's different at the minute because I'm carrying a slight injury with my shoulder.
Yeah.
Which, as a swimmer, it's prone. Shoulders do take a lot of a hit. And it's not as though I can go and do a kick because I haven't got legs. So we can't exactly say, right, we can get them in the water because we can't. So I'm still training, but some sessions are like 45 minutes, half an hour. It just depends on how much we can actually tolerate at the minute.
Yeah. Typical week when you were fit, what sort of mileage?
So when I'm fit, you're looking at around about 25, 30k a week. And it's a lot.
It's a lot.
As a
it's a lot for an
paraswimmer,
able-bodied person,
Yeah.
you know? There'll be people listening to this that think, oh, you know, I could be doing a little bit more
Yeah.
if Lyndon's doing this.
But it's them mileage steps that you've got to think of. Where do I start? You can't just jump and say, I'm going to go and swim 10 times this week.
Yeah.
That's not realistic. Next week, you'll probably drop down to 1 session, 2 sessions. So you've got to think, okay, well, where do I start? Do I start by doing 2 sessions, 3 sessions a week? And then do I push forward and say, okay, well, let's go for the next 3 months of continuing this forward. The more you repeat the process, repetition, that's all you've got to do. Repeat. Yes, it's boring. I'm not going to lie. God, there's been many times where I'm literally sat in the pool like, yeah, we're going again. We're going again. And you got to keep telling yourself, what is that ultimate goal? What is that goal that I am chasing down? And if I chase that down, boom, you're going to absolutely smash it, anything in life.
It's like what you started with, those small steps every day. And I think quite a lot of people, when they start to get into sport, they just like all kind of go crazy.
Yeah.
And then they're just sick of it within a few weeks.
Yeah.
It's just like gradual, slowly.
You can get sick pretty quick because obviously you realise you're following that black line up and down.
Yeah.
And you just think, oh my God, like, what do I do? You've got to find your zone to go into. The one thing what I have learned is to basically treat it like the train theory of who you need to speak to of when you get the support.
Okay.
So the way that I've looked at it, if you look at the train theory of basically saying you start at point A, where's point B? So for me, point A was getting back in the water and going along that journey and saying, we're going to get to Tokyo. So who's the people that's getting on that train to support you? These people. So it might be a psychologist, it might be a lifestyle coach, it could be a swimming coach, your strength and conditioning coach. All them people are getting on. Who are the people that are getting off? Along that train, there are going to be people getting off that at every single stop that are not going to support you. It comes back to let them get off, let them go on their way, and you can push them forward.
Do you ever have to push them off though?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. In the kindest possible way.
It's hard. It is really, really hard to say to someone, just get out, because you are giving me such a negative thought to not achieve my goals. You've got to be selfish at times to basically say, is that person getting me to that level? Are they not? Okay, off my train, because this is my train journey, and I want to get to that goal. You're either with me or you're not.
Off my train.
Yeah, basically, it's a simple way of thinking about it. And if the people around you that believe in you are going to make you achieve that goals, use the train theory to get you to point A to point B to point C. And the more you use that, you'll start seeing people that are not there from point A getting all the way to the end journey. Yeah. And I've seen it loads. And there's people now who try and like say, oh yeah, we know him. And it's like, no, you don't.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And then you can start and tackle people and say, well, answer this question, answer that. And it's like, if you did know us, you would know me of that friendship level type of thing.
So yeah, now you're a famous Paralympian. People are saying, oh yeah, I know Lyndon, but actually maybe they weren't that great to you back in the day. Interesting. Yeah. And we talk about the positive people, the people that you need on that journey.
Yeah.
Because again, it happens in business, but it happens in sport more so, I think. People just see if we use Michael Phelps as an example,
Yeah.
Michael Phelps, he's done it all. He's done it all on his
Oh,
own.
Yeah.
Tell me more about the team of support around you.
The team, there's no I in team. And you're going to think to yourself, that team of people around me is going to be the best motivation of my life to get me to that goal where I want to be. Having that network of people around you, it's who's that networking group that's going to support you the most. So for me, it was nutritionist, strength and conditioning, it was swimming coach, it was psychologists, lifestyle coaches, everyone that you can think of on that team. You could message them, pick up the phone, could be at 5 o'clock in the morning. You say, just drop them a message and just say, I need some help with this. Okay, perfect. That's what Michael Phelps and all the top athletes do. They ask for help when they need it most. If you don't, you could be sat at that same point of just saying, well, what have I done today to get to that next level?
And how big's your team?
It's quite a big team.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Your
of
entourage.
yeah. There's a lot of people on there who I know I can rely on. There's the people that I basically go to when you just need a chat. But there's the people there who you can ask for help and they are going to give you the right help to push you onwards.
I bet it's taken you years to find that team.
Yeah, and I think for me, one of the biggest things that I've learned is it goes back to that theory of ask them for help. And if you're not going to ask for help, how do you know if you're on track to get to that goal of what you want to achieve? If you were starting a business, you're not going to go into and say, oh, I'm going to throw like 100,000 in it. Well, where's that going?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have an idea of where it's going. So that's not a great starting point.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was about setting them goals of saying, okay, well, we're going to go to this competition between September and December. After December, we're going to go from January all the way through to July. Because swimming is a long season. And sometimes you get about 2 weeks off in the summer and then you're back into it. And before you know it, you're like, where's that summer break gone? So yeah, you've just got to ask for help along the way. But it's having them directions in place of having a map. And I use this with everyone. If you have a map to get you around different places, you wouldn't drive from say Newcastle to London without using a map if you didn't know where you were going. If you're doing it for the first time, you'd be like, how am I going to get there? Mm-hmm. And if you plot your journey, you know you can actually get to that route. So that's what I did. And I started saying, okay, well, I need to be here first, then I need to be there. Mm-hmm. But then by the time I get round to summer, I need to be in this position or when I get to trials. And that's what I kept doing along the way.
Brilliant. Well, it's fared you well.
Yeah.
And are you on track for Paris 24?
At the minute, we are on track. We've had a little bit of a setback, but we are still carrying on. There's nothing I can't do which is not going to keep me out of the water. I'm basically still training. Yes, you're injured. Get on with it. That's what I keep telling myself. It's not going to go away overnight. It's one now where I've basically said you're going to have to deal with it as much as you can, but you tolerate what you can. And if it gets to the point where it's painful, okay, that's when you stop. But it's knowing where your pain threshold is to push you.
Amazing attitude. It reminds me of this poster I saw, which I keep meaning to buy, where it just says, nobody cares, work harder.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need a reminder of that.
Yeah.
But wow. And when are trials?
So trials are in April and they are in London. So it's the 2nd of April till the 7th.
Not long.
So it's not long at all, no.
Yeah. How are you feeling?
I feel good. I feel all right about it. Mm-hmm. Yes, throughout life there's always been setbacks and failures, but you've got to think, how can I get around them? You can't just sit back. Like, I could have quite easily said, now I'll be out for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. But can I stay in the water? Yeah, I can. We know we're not doing the work that we need to do, but we're still keeping the fitness levels in a position where when we come back, we know we literally can be like 0 to 100. Let's absolutely smash it.
Brilliant. Well, good luck for
Thank
April.
you.
I'll be watching to see how you're doing. A topic that you hear quite often in Paralympic sport are the categories fair? And I just wondered what your opinion was on that.
I thought you might ask me this. The categories is such a difficult place to actually get involved with. Whether it's para swimming, whatever para sport you're into, it is a minefield. Yes, there's people in categories who you think, should you really be in that category? You look at the criteria and you think, can they fit there? Could they fit here? It's like me, I'm borderline between a 4 and a 5.
Right.
I'm a 4 because of a certain criteria, which we know that I physically can't do that. So on a backstroke start, I haven't got sufficient grip. So that's why it drops me into a 4, because I need an allowance for that grip to actually stick. So I'll take you back to the time when I competed from 2016. I probably wasn't in the right category from that point.
Right.
Yes, I was still borderline, but you had people swimming with like full legs. And you're like, hold on a minute, I sit on a block and I've got no legs.
I've seen some of your races and I've seen that, and that sparked the question again. Yeah.
So there's guys there and you're like, hold on, I'm looking at my next door neighbour and he's got a leg, he's standing on the block, he's about 6'5". I'm about 3'1".
From a psychological point of view, though, you know.
Exactly. And you think, okay, well, there's a lot of power that comes from your legs.
Yeah.
And if you can push off and get a good underwater dolphin kick, I'm basically up at 5 meters and you're gone to 15, like in the shot of a click of a finger. So yeah.
I have seen you beat them though as well.
Yeah, which is a good feeling.
I bet it is. But yeah, the physiological disadvantages, but then the psychological. You know, so do you think the category that you're in right now is fair?
Yes. I think it's more fair now. And I think since the restructure happened after Rio, where everything's basically said, you know what, scrap it, let's restructure it. Is it 100% right? I wouldn't say it's 100% correct now, but is it better? Yes.
Okay.
I think there's still room for improvement. And from what I've heard, I think there's going to be another restructure after Paris, I think. Don't quote me on that. But that's the rumour, what we're hearing. And I think there still needs to be a lot of development done to help push that towards that next level to make it more fair.
Definitely. But one thing that is amazing is that it's getting so much more visibility.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wouldn't say quite the same as the Olympics, but more and more people are staying on to watch the Paralympics when they start.
I think since London, that's where the Paralympics took a real lift off. And since then, I think there's a lot more people now that look to the para guys and say, you guys are the inspiration of the sports. Yes, all the big guys who break the world records, like your Phelps, your Peaties, your James Guys, everyone like that, who go and break records after record after record, yeah, them guys are still inspirational in their own way. But you think about someone who, like myself, who's an amputee, or someone who's in a wheelchair, who's paralysed, they're actually going through different day-to-day challenges to actually get them to the top level. So
it's next level.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like moving me to tears, like hearing the stories, seeing what people have gone through just to be on that start line.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
And I think that's where it comes back to the people like who suffer with like mental health, and you hear them of saying, oh, well, I'm on the verge of quitting. You look at like Adam Peaty took time out because he needed it, and he spoke up and said, yeah, I'm taking some time out because of mental health. The people that do that, good on them for speaking out, and that's where I think everyone has to find what's going to trigger their own voice to actually make them speak out. Yes, I've done it, spoke out about it. Some people don't like it when you speak out, but some people do, and I think it's great that you can actually have an inspiration on people to make them want to talk to you about it.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what this whole podcast's about, is speaking out about issues, so they're not issues anymore.
I wouldn't necessarily say it's issues. I did more, what's the right terminology? It's more finding your way, your pathway of getting out that dark tunnel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for you, has there been any massive one thing that's helped you out that dark tunnel, or is it the combination?
I think it's been a combination of multiple things. When I was in the darkest of dark times a couple of years ago, I was at a point where I was like, I don't want to be here. And I was saying to myself, what is the point of staying around? And I was at a point where I nearly committed suicide, but I didn't. There was that little voice in my head which was basically saying, do you know what? There's more to life than doing this. I've had friends that have done it that have committed suicide and left families behind devastated, and I basically sat and said, I don't want to leave my daughter in a position to actually say she has not got a dad, because I know what it's like to not have a dad around. Yes, my stepdad's always been there, but it's a case of I had to say, do it for her. If there's anyone in life that I would do it for, it would be the little one. So, yeah.
Oh, bless you. And so brave talking about it. I'm sure it'll help so many people just to hear you talk about it as well, because, again, it's sometimes it's things that people battle on their own. They don't realise other people go through it as well.
The worst thing ever, when you're sat in a house or a room by yourself, them thoughts start coming back. But you've got to do things to keep you on track from that not happening. I do it now with basically, I set myself So on a Monday, I'll say to myself, what do I have this week? Then I'm like, okay, well, that's what I've got. So Monday, I'll sit and go, I've got this on, this on, this on. This is what's Tuesday, this is what's Wednesday, this is what's on Thursday. But what can I do in the meantime when I've got that free time to actually keep myself on track? And there's nothing worse than I don't know how I didn't do it, where people are now asking me, how did you not turn to alcohol? How did you not turn to drugs? I didn't, because that's not the way that I wanted to go around it. There was a better way that I chose, and that was talk therapy. Yeah, hard, because there was times where I broke down, times where I was just absolutely drained, and you don't realise it, but you've got to... I dug myself deeper with psychologists and turned around and went, yeah, I come out there, found the light at the end of the tunnel, basically.
Oh, I'm so glad that you did. And you mentioned your daughter was one of the people that stopped you from going through with it. And raising children, it's hard enough when you're able-bodied. How do you manage raising your daughter?
Yeah, so it can be a handful.
Put it mildly.
Aubrey's great. So Aubrey's my little girl. She's an absolute princess, as everyone would say. But she's wild at times and challenges us. But there's times where I think, do you know what? I do need help. And that's where now I've said, right, okay, if I take her out, I need someone with us to help me in different situations. So if she needs a toilet, I can't exactly run to a toilet with her if I've got my prosthetics on. If she runs off, okay, I need someone with us in case like she does run off, then they can grab her or whatever. And you don't think about that when you have all your limbs, like you're an able-bodied person. You can literally say, oh my god, they've done it again, come here, and you run after them and you grab them. Whereas for me, I'm like, if I was in my chair and sprinted after her, I don't want to hurt her and knock her down, because that wouldn't be the right way to go about it. And then you'd have people being like, you're such a bad parent. And I'm like, oh my life, come on. Can't win.
We all get that one.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think there's a situation where it will ever be 100% absolutely fine. Everyone's going to have the pros and cons around it, and everyone's going to be judgmental at times. But you've just got to take their feedback and move on, and it'll come back to let them, basically.
Everything seems to come back to that.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
2 words. Brilliant. And how's your outlook on life changed since having a daughter?
As a parent, and you'll probably know this, there's no words that you can describe to someone who's not a parent to say how it would change you. For me, it made me step up that a little bit more. So yes, I'd stepped up, but as a dad, as a mother, whatever you are, you've got to step up that extra bit more. You start thinking about other things in life. I think, yes, there was times where I was a bit selfish, and I didn't admit that to myself, and I kept telling myself, no, you're not, no, you're not, no, you're not. And that's where now I'm like, yeah, I probably was a bit selfish and didn't think about the little one as much as I did. But now, yeah, there's a lot more that I would do for her than I would for anyone else, basically. But yeah.
Oh, lovely. So we're now on to our final feature, the regular feature, where we rate ourselves 1 to 10 on a series of questions.
Oh, God, here we go.
Are you ready?
Go on, then.
Lyndon, how good looking are you?
10.
Excellent. How funny are you?
Oh, hilarious. 100. No. I'd say I'm quite funny. I would say 9. Probably there's a bit more I could do with that, but yeah. 9.
Brilliant. Are you a good cook?
Yeah.
Yeah? Another 10?
I'm real good. No, I wouldn't say I'm not a Michelin star. That would be a 10. I would say I'm a 7 or an 8. 7 or 8. I'll give that.
Okay. How good at singing are you?
If you want the windows smashed, yeah. I'm going to say 1.
Okay. Do you drink at all?
No.
No? Never drank?
Occasionally, but not going out every weekend and getting hammered. That's not my thing.
That's not how you get to the Paralympics.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe a low score there.
I'm going to say 0.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense. Parenting skills.
Oh.
It's really controversial, this one. It's really cruel.
That's harsh.
It is, yeah.
What's your parenting skills?
I think I gave myself a 7 when I did it, just in December. Yeah.
I would say I'm a 6 or a 7. There's probably more that I could do, but I don't think you know that until you've actually done more to actually realise what you can do around that.
Yeah. You're always trying your best, aren't you?
Yeah. You try and give 100% every single day, but you can't say that every single day is 100% because it's not. It's difficult to actually put what is 100% on that. So,
absolutely. How good a friend are you?
I'd like to say I'm a good friend, that anyone would know that they could come to us and speak to us about something.
Yeah.
I'd say an 8, 7 to 8.
Cool. How intelligent are you?
Oh my God. I'm not a brain box.
But remember, there's lots of different elements of intelligence.
I know what.
This is just an overview.
Overview?
Yeah, because obviously there's social intelligence.
Yeah,
and
I was going to say
emotional.
there's different types of intelligence, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Could be on about AI, but hey ho. 7.
Okay.
6. 6.
Okay, right.
6.
How kind are you?
8.
Really kind. I'd class that as really kind.
Yeah, 7, 8. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And finally, the question you've all been waiting for: how do you rate yourself at sex?
Bit personal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, you've got me there. I will say 9.
Okay, pretty high.
I'm going to give myself a 9 for that.
Awesome. Brilliant. You've been amazing. Thanks, Lyndon.
No worries.
Hi, it's Ryan from Harvey and Hugo, and I am the videographer here. So, are you looking for a new way to stand out in today's crowded digital landscape? Well, look no further than podcasting. Here at Harvey and Hugo, we specialise in creating and producing high quality podcasts that engage and inspire audiences. And with our comprehensive production services, we'll take care of all the technical details, from the recording and the editing to the distribution and the promotion. With millions of listeners tuning in every day, it's the perfect time to start connecting with them on a deeper level. Let Harvey and Hugo help you unlock the power of podcasting and take your message to the next level.